Today I'll be giving you all a recap of one of the most fantastic anime series ever, Gargantia on the Verdurous Planet. This series transports us to a distant future where the Earth is no longer inhabitable due to an environmental disaster that has left it flooded and covered with seas, and humans have migrated to star space stations orbiting the planet and have formed the Galactic Alliance of humans. Together, they now drift in space aboard a massive technologically advanced base known as Avalon, which is poised to launch one final desperate attack using advanced technology against its enemy, the tentacle alien race called the Hideyaoze. The Alliance's soldiers have all been raised from childhood to be entirely dedicated to the never-ending conflict, and among them is the protagonist of the series, 16-year-old Ledo, who knows little else but battle and is always ready to obey his commander's every order. He is in a fleet of advanced robots trying to find the Hideyaoze, and during one of the battles he is knocked out, and he and his humanoid mobile AI weapon chamber are swallowed by a wormhole. They end up on the distant Earth on the Lost Frontier. The first episode begins with Ledo waking up on a strange world that is surrounded by water, and he spends the rest of his time trekking around the place and trying to survive. 6 months later, he manages to sneak aboard a salvage ship, unnoticed by anyone except his repairman, Pinion. He takes a 15-year-old girl named Amy as his hostage, but a chase ensues and Ledo finds himself constantly cornered by the crew. He finds out that he is on a habitable planet, and in sheer shock, he lets go of Amy and summons Chamber. His autonomous robot reveals that unlike Ledo has been taught, Earth is indeed the planet of origin for all humanity. Although the ship's crew had Ledo pinned on a pylon, he tries to have a friendly conversation with Rigid, the second-in-command to the fleet commander Chamber, who translates for Ledo. The crew is surprised by the existence of Chamber, and Rigid discusses the situation with the crew members, while Amy heads back to visit her younger bedridden brother, Bebel, to give him a miniature ship wheel so that he can complete his model ship project. She later visits Ledo in a holding cell and offers him fish as a sign of friendship before telling him about Earth. Amy explains how Earth was once completely frozen, and some humans still chose to remain on it instead of going to space. The ice eventually melted and flooded the Earth as a vast ocean. The people now live in a massive fleet of huge ships called Gargantia and make their daily living by scavenging through the ocean for resources to trade with other fleets. After being taken in by Gargantia, Ledo struggles to adjust to his new way of life, and he constantly battles with his past traumatic memories of fighting the Hideyaoze in space. While trying to survive the new planet with primitive people who speak a backwards language and have ancient technology, Ledo learns to communicate and try to find a way back home to his place in the sky. As the story progresses, Amy asks Ledo for a ship, and he agrees because he wants to earn the trust of the people on the fleet. He boards Chamber and defeats some pirates with ease, and no harm comes to the crew or the ship. The crew of Gargantia is in utter disbelief at Chamber's destructive power, and leads to Amy's disapproval of Ledo's use of such technological weaponry. Ledo learns that on Earth, humanity must survive through shared values, and that weapons are only to be used as a last resort. However, the leaders of Gargantia discuss the eventual retaliation they might receive at the hands of the Pirate Empress, and just after Ledo and Amy reconcile, they are attacked by the Pirate Empress' entire fleet. Ledo strongly feels that he has to help and discusses the situation with Rigid. He manages to strike a deal and helps out against the attack in hope that the people on Gargantia will accept him as a member of the crew. Rigid orders him to do this cleanly with no casualties, and the boy does his best. He defeats the pirate fleet easily by disabling its ships in the front lines, which renders the backline immobile. Then he heads back to the Gargantia to deal with the sneak attack headed by the Pirate Empress, Lucage, who has her own handcrafted mecha that she calls the Surfing Lobster, Yonboro. Ledo takes her down very easily and forces the pirates to flee. The Gargantia crew cheers for its new hero, and Amy greets him. He responds with a thanks in Earth's native language, which he's learned. However, Rigid tells Ledo in an invoice that he has to pay for the collateral damage that he caused during his attacks on the pirates. Luckily, all his living expenses and the fee of having Chamber aboard the fleet are waived, and Ledo is granted a permanent home on Earth. Ledo and Chamber begin living a life for themselves on board the Gargantia and his chamber, and Ledo begins to help the other workers. Meanwhile, Ledo also sculpts a Hideo's claw that he always carries and dreams of finding a way back into space to rejoin the humans' war and prevent the Hideos from destroying them in space. He gives this sculpture to Amy, who plans to pass it on to Bebel later on. They go to see the resident crew doctor, Oldham, who explains that most of the old world technology was lost in the sea, so the humans on Earth can't help him return to space. Later on, Amy takes Ledo to meet Bebel, who wonders what life is like in space. It begins to rain, and Ledo helps the crew collect rainwater to replenish the freshwater supply for the fleet. Bebel realizes that Ledo had actually carved a flute pebble and begins playing with it, and it awakens a long-forgotten memory in Ledo's mind that makes him tear up. He asks for the flute back and wonders if he should learn more about the Earth and its surroundings. Chamber mentions that he needs to leave all this behind and eventually make his way back to his unit, but Ledo decides that he will look for a job on board among the crew. Unfortunately, although he doesn't find a single job for his skills or interest, the Gargantia stops moving as it is time for maintenance work. The workers take advantage of the calm day and begin their repairs. Pinion sees this as an opportunity and invites Ledo and Amy to the beach, along with fellow couriers Saya and Melty. There's an energy shortage, so Pinion is unable to cook meat. H sends Ledo on an errand, so he could use Chamber as a grill instead behind Ledo's back. Amy, Saya, and Melty are tasked by Rigid to turn the sprinkler on, so they race to the top of a crane tower using surf kites, but Amy manages to take time out and save Ledo from 3 swindlers. The girls return to the party, and Amy tells Ledo that Pinion has thrown the party to cheer him up because he couldn't find a job. Ledo eventually finds a job as a fisherman, but is terrible at it and sends Chamber to do it for him instead. Meanwhile, Pinion invites Ledo for lunch and offers him another job as a member of the repair's crew. At the same time, Bellows, the 18-year-old leader of the Gargantia's excavation team, also offers Ledo a job on it. Following this, Ledo's PTSD is triggered when he sees a cooked octopus and points his gun at it, but Bellows and Pinion assure him it's good food and that he should calm down. The same night, Ledo and Amy spend a lot of time alone together and grow closer, but the light from the ocean's reflection keeps Ledo on alert. The next day, he begins salvage work with Bellows, and things go well until an underwater creature attacks him. Chamber identifies it as Hideos, which makes Ledo quickly abandon his work to confront it. Bellows pleads with him not to hurt the creature, but Ledo kills it without remorse. The creature turns out to be a whale squid, which is considered to be a sacred animal on Earth. The news of this spreads quickly across the fleet, and an impeding curse is rumored to appear on the Gargantia. Pinion thinks that Ledo should be drafted to his team so that they can explore the uncharted whale squid territory and salvage its treasures, and Bellows tries to stop him. A problem arises when Chamber analyzes that the whale squid are indeed similar to Hideos, which makes Ledo swear to exterminate every last one of them. Amy and Babel try to change his mind, but Ledo refuses to give up. A huge number of whale squids are seen approaching the Gargantia, and Ledo is ready to attack them all. The fleet commander, Fearlock, orders that all machinery and lights be shut down temporarily to prevent provoking the whale squids, and lets them quietly pass from under the ship. Ledo almost attacks the whale squids, but stops when Rigid threatens him with a gun. Fearlock has a heart attack, and before his death, he appoints Rigid as his successor. Chamber tells Ledo that it has finally managed to pinpoint the location of their civilization in space, but it may take thousands of years before someone picks up their distress signal because the Earth is devoid of any technology. During Fearlock's funeral, several ships follow Pinion's plans to follow the whale squids and split from Gargantia. Ledo is leaving as well, and Babel tries to discourage him from leaving for Amy's sake, but Ledo doesn't seem to care. His lust for whale squid blood is untamed, and he wants to kill them, not for himself but to protect Amy and Bebel from the Hideos. Ledo leaves and soon begins his attack on Whale Squid Nest, assisted by Pinion's crew. Ledo lands them on an ancient facility and finds some records in a storage container. He learns that the Hideos were originally humans who had undergone heavy genetic modifications that helped them adapt to outer space environments. They called themselves the Evolvers, but a faction of humanity deemed their actions to be blasphemous and declared war on their kind, which was the basis for the current conflict in space, which escalated after the two parties left Earth, when the Earth entered its fifth ice age. The only ones that remain now are current humans and the ancestors of the Hidden House. Ledo is mentally distraught by this revelation and cries. Meanwhile, Chamber kills a Hidden House child without Ledo's permission. All the whale squids in the area are killed by Pinion and his team, who manages to salvage rare ancient technology from the old world. He believes that his crew has the right to keep the technology for themselves, so he sends a broadcast to the other fleets and warns them to keep out of his territory or there will be consequences. Several ships in Gargantia wishes to join Pinion's fleet, but he forces other pirate crews to join his fleet besides using the ancient technology that he has found and transformed into weaponry. Chamber later informs Ledo that the light bugs that humanity uses as a power source were also created by Hideos, which proves their discovery that Hideos were simply humans who had evolved. Ledo then begins to question the war effort, and Chamber concludes that the Galactic Alliance and the Hideos simply cannot coexist within the same galaxy. He explains that the one side has evolved and perfected its civilization, while the other side relinquished the concept of civilization, and altogether the conflict between the two species is simply inevitable. A huge fleet approaches Earth after a random transmission from a Galactic Alliance vessel, and Ledo sees that his former superior, Kugel, is still alive inside his mecha, Stryker. He receives instructions from Kugel to return to active duty and reunites with Kugel. Ledo tells Kugel everything he learned about the Hideos, but Kugel responds that he always knew about it, just like the High Command of the Galactic Alliance always knew about it, but he still insisted on fighting the Hideos because they were rallying a powerful fleet with an imperialist military society that would rally all the humans on Earth under them to recruit them into the war effort. Pinion and his team are then forced to join Kugel's fleet in separate departments, and after some time reveals to Ledo that he is working on a large-scale operation to attack the Gargantia. Ledo tries to dissuade Kugel, but he doesn't listen, and carries out the attack at the hands of Luke Cage. Ledo is forced to stop Kugel by himself, and Pinion aids him by equipping Chamber with some fantastic new weapons that will help him take Stryker down. Meanwhile, on the Gargantia, Luke Cage and one of the Gargantia's ship leaders called Flange make preparations for the impending uprising, as the fleet starts to throw out their sick and weak into the ocean to decrease its weight. Ledo realizes that this might happen to Bebel, and he quickly begins his counterattack on Kugel. Melty and Amy inform the crew of the Gargantia about Kugel's incoming attack. The rebellion begins and Ledo is assisted by Pinion's crew as they fight Kugel. Meanwhile, the pirates led by Luke Cage begin to attack the Gargantia's fleet soldiers. The battle is tough and it goes on for a while, but Ledo finally managed to pin Kugel down and open Stryker's cockpit. It is then revealed that Kugel has been dead inside for a while, and Stryker had come to the conclusion that humans must view her as her god. They decide to destroy Stryker, and Ledo merges his nervous system with the Chamber's interface to create a neural link that increases Chamber's capabilities, but the risk to Ledo's life is much more severe. Rigid uses a special key to activate an ancient mass driver stored inside the main ship and uses it to bombard the enemy fleet. Ledo and Chamber pursue Stryker when she starts to target the Gargantia. In the heat of the battle, Ledo wishes to survive and live out his life with Amy. Chamber relieves Ledo from duty and ejects him to safety. He then rushes into Stryker and destroys her in a fatal suicide attack to save Ledo. A long time later, we see that Ledo has become an experienced excavator in the whale squid territory and is living his best life with Amy. Bebel is also safe and happy. However, deep in the ocean, whales with larvae begin to attach themselves to Chamber's mechanical corpse, and the series ends on this mysterious note. One of the standout elements of this anime is the animation and soundtrack. The visuals are vivid and crisp, capturing the lush, vibrant colors of earth and ocean. The fight scenes have an impressive scope, as they showcase the Hideyos's unique fighting style, and it's genuine pleasure to watch. The music is equally impressive, and the opening theme song, Kono Sekai wa Bokura wo Matteta, has a way of drawing you in and setting the tone for the episode. To sum it all up, Gargantia on the Verdurous Planet is a unique sci-fi anime with a refreshing and engaging storyline. It's a beautiful balance between action-packed fight scenes and heartfelt human moments, which leaves a lasting impression on the viewer. The anime masterfully explores themes of trust, friendship, family, and redemption, all set against the backdrop of a world shrouded in mystery and danger. I highly recommend giving this anime a watch, especially if you enjoy sci-fi stories with unique twists and a strong emotional core. So, what did you think of Gargantia on the Verdurous Planet? Let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.